Downtown Development Authority meeting of Wednesday, March 4th, 2020. Maura, pinch hitting.
Okay, yeah, in Susan's absence, I will be doing roll call. Micah Bartelme.
Here.
Alexandra Deek. Here. Bob Gunzel.
Here.
Tyler Kinley.
Here.
Marie Clough.
Here.
Jessica Letoff.
Yes.
Molly McFarland. Darren McKinnon.
Present.
Rishi Narayan. Keith Orr.
Here.
Phil Weiss.
Here.
And Tom Crawford.
Excellent. First thing on the agenda is approval of the board meeting agenda, which everyone should have in front of them. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We have an agenda. Next is audience participation. No one was yet signed up, but is there anyone in the audience who would like to have 4 minutes with us? Yes, come on up, tell us your name, and I'll give you a 1 minute warning.
I was expecting 3 minutes. That's great. My name is Doug Selby. I'm a co-founder of Meadowlark Builders, but I'm here today representing the Wolfpack, which is an organization with a few hundred members in the area that are in the business and political communities and are interested in policy and legislation around environmental issues. I'm sure most of you actually probably know a few members. My committee is the Climate Action Hunt Team. We are working hard to connect all the major institutions in Washington County and Ann Arbor with climate action goals that support the city of Ann Arbor's goals, 2030 goals, and also Washington County at large. The city's climate action plan is divided into 3 areas. It's energy, adaptation and resilience, and mobility, all of which I think you guys have some purview over and some interest in as well, particularly around mobility though. So I feel like you guys are in a unique position for goals for the downtown to intersect with the city's broader goals and for their 2030 action plan. And what we're trying to do is align, the Wolfpack is trying to align all of the major stakeholders, all the larger institutions and groups and things like that in the city around a similar theme so that we can hopefully help sort of make connections and drive change in a way that's going to be more effective for everybody. Those things that I'm asking these groups for are what are your 2030 goals? So what are the 2030 climate action goals for the DDA? How is that funded? The goal leadership, so who can we be a liaison with? Who can the city work with for these goals? And then the action plan, which is specific and time-bound steps that that the DDA could look at over the next 10 years to help meet our goals as a city. So I'm asking here today to ask for the DDA to help us work to develop a comprehensive plan that that dovetails with related organizations and with the city's broader efforts. Just on a personal note, I would say that we have very little time to avert the worst of catastrophes. Our society can pull out of this, and we can not only pull out of it, we can do it with a even better quality of life than we enjoy now. But it's going to take a big concerted action amongst all levels of government, and nowhere is more actionable than local. So I'm hoping that we can count on the DDA as a partner in this fight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Time to spare. Anyone else? We have 3 other slots before the meeting. None. All right. Moving on. Reports from city boards and commissions. Ray Detter and Steve Kaplan.
Hi there, Steve
Downtown
Kaplan.
Area Citizens Advisory Council.
Yes. Last night's meeting began with a discussion about City Council's approval of the standard by right development at the corner of Main and William. The role of the Design Review Board was discussed in the context of the standard. The Design Review Board was not in favor of the latest design and had recommended changes. Given this body can only make recommendations, their input's not always incorporated into the project. The group agreed the economic impact of the standard is a positive for the downtown and the community in spite of not picking up on some of the design leads that we gave them. It was also mentioned that the U of M Credit Union is making plans to expand its Albert Kahn designed building on Huron Street. The building plays a prominent role in the history of Art Deco architecture in the community. We think that the expansion is to facilitate a new branch as part of that building. We also discussed what that means for the existing branch on William. The group discussed the need for more affordable housing and the good work being done by the Housing Commission. Last night's discussion focused primarily on the importance of maximizing density while also maintaining quality design. The group revisited the historic sound district discussion. The proposed ordinance would increase the acceptable noise level and extend the time when loud noise is permitted. Since the last CAC meeting, a sound measuring instrument was used to conduct a study to establish a baseline for ambient sound. In the proposed ordinance, the city established a baseline for ambient sound of 85 decibels. However, the recent study concluded that the baseline ambient sound in various locations downtown currently is only between 58 and 59 decibels. For context, the impact of sound doubles with every 10 degrees in decibels. So the CAC recommends that the city staff revisit the benchmark level used in the ordinance. Study results are being sent to city staff and city council. The group discussed recommendations from the Center of the City Task Force report presented to council on March 2nd. The group will continue to follow and stay informed as plans for the library lot unfold. Lastly, Mr. Detter shared exciting news. The Downtown Historic Marker Program will be establishing another exhibit at the Whitker building, on the corner of Main and Miller. That's it.
All right, thank you very much. Let's see, DDA member communications. Look around, no one else? Jessica.
Thanks, Keith.
You just call this time with Jess.
Jess's hour. It is if you come to the meeting. So for folks who don't know, I hold two public conversations called the Downtown Hall. One is a coffee hour and one is a walking tour. This year I'm doing it quarterly on the months, so March is our month. This month I'm going to be doing it this coming Saturday starting at 10 a.m. This is going to be the walking tour. So we'll start on the west side of Blake, walk down the existing bike lane, and then we're going to walk up first and talk about what changing that street to a two-way street and what the two-way bike lane on that street is going to look like. The other one this month is coming a little bit later. It's Wednesday, March 25th at 7 p.m. We'll be meeting at the downtown library as usual, but we'll be on the third floor instead of the second to allow for a little bit more comfortable space. Excuse me. And since we'll be meeting effectively the week before the next board meeting, I'll also be happy to talk about our upcoming agenda and any thoughts, feelings, or questions you might be having on that. And those are all of my communications. It wasn't an hour.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Which brings us to Executive Director Communications. Again, our pinch hitter, Maura.
Once again, standing in for Susan, I have two announcements. The first is just to extend a congratulations to our Finance Director, Sarah, whose baby granddaughter, Coco, was born at 3 a.m. this morning. So we're so happy that she's with us. And the second is on April 9th, this board will reconvene for a half-day retreat. So this is a follow-up to the full-day retreat that you attended in February. The meeting will be here in this room, April 9th from 9 to noon, and the focus of the meeting will be on committee structure. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Maura. Approval of minutes from all of the various February meeting minutes. They are on pages 3 through 18. Are there any changes suggested? Then we could have, I need a motion for approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second. Second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? They are approved. Subcommittee reports, and we do have a bunch of action from various subcommittees. Let's start with the Finance Committee. Bob.
Okay, I'm going to move a resolution to put forward the DDA budgets for fiscal year 2021. I'd like to move that
Second.
Second. Very good.
and offer the following information and discussion. The committee reviewed the FY21 budget and recommends the board approve putting the budget forward to the city at the board's March meeting. That's today. After the board approves putting forward the budget, it will be presented to City Council at their March 23rd work session. And the city is expected to consider the approval of the budget, including the DDA funds, on May 18th. That's when the city approves their budget and approves ours along with it. We'll then come back to the DDA for adoption on June 3rd. So that's the time schedule. Marie, you want to add anything you covered for me at the committee meeting?
So I just want to give a shout out to Sarah, who did a lot of work with the team to come up with the budget. Such a good job. I just feel like, you know, we had a major transition last year, and I'm just really pleased at how smoothly it went and what a good job you all did putting that budget together. So they put a nice, you know, what has changed year over year. So if anybody has any questions, Sarah can answer those in detail. But I thought, good job, team.
Yeah, let me echo that. Say thank you, Sarah. And Sarah is available for any questions.
I also wanted to touch on one comment. When we met with the Finance Committee, Tom Crawford, the city CFO, brought a suggestion that the Ann Ashley project be added back into the budget. It had been there before City Council. We took the bonding for that to them, and they turned that down. So it was removed from the budget. His recommendation was to include it back in, and that was discussed at the meeting. But the budget that is put before you remains without Ann Ashley in it.
But we expect that discussion to happen at the city council.
It may very well, yes.
Yeah.
So when we go to on the 23rd, because Tom feels that way, we anticipate that he may bring that up to city council, and that may be something that they look at and possibly decide to amend.
So in the absence of the Ann Ashley Garage, what changed with the budget?
With the Ann Ashley Garage coming out, the main change was a $2 million addition for contingency that we anticipate might be used for carbon neutral initiatives. There are some studies that are being done both by the DDA and also by the city, and once those studies are completed, because that was approved as an emergency, we felt having contingency in the budget to address something should it come up, or should there be some initiatives that we can step in and help with, that we would like to be able to do that.
And if I could ask another question, I see that the housing fund has increased by, it looks like, more than 50%, which is a delight to see. I'm curious to know whether this is a response to Ann Ashley, whether this is in response to anything in particular that we see coming down the line, or just an increase in that fund.
The housing fund was actually budgeted. So the revenues are going up. We budgeted an additional $191,000 to go into that to address some requests that were received by the Housing Commission. The fund balance, though, would be spent down by the end of 2021, so it would actually be less than it was.
I see. Thank you.
We have $1.3 million budgeted for 21.
And if I can, this will be my last one, and then I'll make
Yep.
a little space. Do I remember correctly that the amount over, and I can't remember what the base is, if it's 325 or 350, is not capped at the 50% AMI spending? Am I remembering that correctly?
Right, so most of the fund balance as of June 30th, 19 was about 900,000. Most of that was restricted by the under 50% AMI. There are some fund balance previous to the council's ordinance that are not restricted, and some other things like interest earnings and that kind of thing. But I think it was maybe 200,000 that was unrestricted, and the rest was restricted.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Sarah?
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, then we can take a vote on the resolution to put forward the DEA fiscal year 21 budget to council. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. Back to
Thank you. The next Finance Committee meeting is Thursday, March 26th. Please note that's at 9:30. That's a change of time. And that'll be the time that committee meets month to month.
Just want to make a quick check here because I see your notes say the 26th and the agenda says the 25th. What is that Thursday? It is the 26th. So the notes are correct. If you're looking at the agenda, you can change that to the 26th. Yes.
Thanks for catching that.
All right, Capital Improvements Committee. Since Molly's not here, I assume you're taking that.
I'm up, yeah.
All right.
So at the last Capital Improvements Committee, we talked a lot both about the funds that have yet to be spent on the current phase of the People-Friendly Streets projects, the status of those and where they're going to be moving forward, as well as what we need to be doing now to get ready for the next phase of People-Friendly Streets. And in both cases, we're operating with a little bit of uncertainty, but what we want to do is make some decisions that will help guide staff and the contractors as we're moving forward. So with that in mind, we have some resolutions to move forward. The first one is I'd like to move the following resolution to modify the design contract for the first Ashley and William Street projects.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
So we spent, thank you. We spent some time looking at current construction cost estimates for these bonded projects, with 2 years of construction remaining and some MDOT reviews still outstanding, which we have news on that in a minute. There are a lot of unknowns. Current estimates show that there's also opportunity and funds that we may be able to apply to Ashley Street elements that were earlier considered to be important but a lower priority. So as a result, the committee recommended increasing the Smith Group design contract by $170,000 to proceed with design and feasibility for the Ashley Street changes referenced on page 22 of your packet. This would allow the DDA to respond quickly if project bond funds remained available as predicted. And a reminder, this is something that I feel like I have to relearn on every project, but bond funds have to be spent within a particular window. So part of what we're doing is making sure that we're spending within the window that we need to.
All right. Any discussion on? None. Seeing none, we can take a vote. All in favor?
I'm sorry.
This is not a discussion. I'm recusing
yeah.
myself from the vote on this due to a conflict.
Thank you, Darren. So, all in favor of the resolution to modify the design contract for Ashley William Street project, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. Back to you.
Thanks, all. So I'd like to move a resolution to modify the Huron Street construction contract with Fonson Company, Inc. If I could ask for a second.
Second.
Thanks, Darren. As a part of our committee discussion, we reviewed Huron construction cost estimates. Current costs are within the approved Fonson contract, but if you remember, we have some work outstanding that we still need to complete, and current projections indicate an additional $260,000 may be needed to complete the project. During the 2019 construction season, unforeseen challenges were encountered, including the relocation of private communication lines, filling private building vaults, and restoring large segments of roadway. In addition, the board voted to take on the costs of the city's IT conduit. The committee has recommended increasing the contract with Fonson Company, which still fits within the total project budget of $5.6 million. Any questions, thoughts, comments?
So when we say may be needed, if the money's already in there, why do we have to add? I mean, it's there.
So you have set a project budget, but then you've also approved a construction contract with Fonson. And what this would do, what we're anticipating is that we will go over the amount that was approved for the Fonson contract. So this really just authorizes staff to spend an additional $260,000 if we need to.
For the Fonson contract.
For the Fonson contract.
Out of that total
I got it.
budget. Any other questions?
Thank you. I'm sorry, Amber, can you stay up here, please? Since we're talking about the Huron Street contract, I wanted to ask Amber, I feel like she's the right one to bear some good news to the board.
Yes. Yes, we do have some good news. And then we have a few things we're still working on. So we, just this past week, got an update from MDOT on our outstanding reviews. The good news is that they have approved a full signal at 3rd and Chapin and Huron.
Congratulations.
So in addition to having a signal there, that will also, and they'll also install a crosswalk on the east side of Chapin. Right now, there's only one place to cross Huron at that intersection. They also have approved no turn on red throughout the corridor, and as we've mentioned in the past, the left turn phase at 5th Avenue. And right now, they are anticipating installing those in spring of 2021. And our understanding is that MDOT is taking on those improvements.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
When you're driving west on Huron, you can't make no left turns. Is that what you're saying?
They're protected turns now.
No turn on red. And then at 5th Avenue, there will be a left turn phase. So right now, is that the intersection?
And I
you're
think
asking
the question is no turn on red on rights. So,
Got it.
yeah,
Okay.
we're not setting up car pedestrian complex.
Got it.
We do still have a couple of items outstanding, and we can talk more about those at the committee meeting. But we requested leading pedestrian intervals so that the pedestrian signal turned walk before the vehicular signal turned green. That MDOT has still not approved. And then also we're waiting on permit review for changes to the signals at First and Huron, Ashley and Huron, and Kingsley and Maine when we restore those streets to two-way traffic, so we can provide an update at the committee meeting.
Thanks, Amber. I just wanted to make sure Amber got all the props for that light.
Yes,
It was
absolutely.
important to do that. All right, so the next three resolutions are to approve, excuse me.
Did we pass that one yet?
Did we pass that?
No, we haven't.
I just
Right.
blew right
Right,
past it.
you did.
Like the light, I blew right past it.
Exactly. So, all in favor of the resolution to modify the Huron Street construction contract with Fonson Company, Inc., please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Put you down, Jess.
Thanks. All right, the next three resolutions are to approve standard construction support services. We do this with every construction project. The DDA selects from contractors competitively bid by city engineering. So the first resolution that I'm moving is an agreement with Testing Engineers and Consulting, Inc., if I could ask for a second.
Second.
Thanks, Brian. So material testing is required on all projects to ensure materials meet specifications. And Testing Engineers and Consulting, Inc. is one of the 5 firms on the city's approved vendor list for ongoing material testing services. Can somebody help me check me on where we are in the board packet?
And the board.
31.
Page 31, thank you. Thank you. So, questions, comments, feelings? Okay.
Seeing none, we can vote on this one. All in favor of the resolution to approve agreement with Testing Engineers and Consultants, Inc., please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay. The next resolution I'd like to move is an agreement with Wade Trim Associates for construction engineering, inspection, and staking services. If I could have a second.
Second.
Thanks, Micah. Construction engineering, inspection, oversight, and staking being required on all projects. Wade Trim Associates is on the city's approved vendor list to provide ongoing services.
Questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the resolution to approve agreement with Wade Trim Associates, Inc., please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes again.
All right, working through it. All right, the last resolution for this part is a resolution to approve an amendment to the agreement with Stantec Consulting Michigan for construction administration and engineering services. If I could have a second.
Second.
Thanks, Phil. So construction administration engineering are required on all projects. Stantec Consulting Michigan is on the city's approved vendor list to provide ongoing services.
Questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the resolution to approve amendment to agreement with Stantec Consulting, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Thanks, Phil. All right, so this final resolution, I believe, initiates design for the next round of infrastructure and mobility improvements, or People-Friendly Streets 2. We know that the process includes State Street. To identify the 4 other street improvements, the design team will use meaningful public engagement and DDA goals for equitable access, safety, affordable housing infrastructure support, and responsible energy use to shape recommended projects. This is an exciting opportunity to continue being thought leaders and making tangible project towards our goals. Once approved, we will have committee and board level discussions to finalize the project's goals and priorities. So all we're doing is moving forward. We're not making decisions today. So I'm moving the following resolution to approve a design team for the People-Friendly Streets Phase 2 project. If I could ask for a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay.
So DDA staff, DDA and city staff collaborated on the design services RFQ released in early January. 4 vendors submitted responses, which were reviewed by a team of 8 city and DDA staff. Based on the evaluation, discussion, and scores, staff recommended Smith Group, teamed with Wade Trim and Tool Design to oversee the design and public engagement processes for the People-Friendly Streets Phase 2 projects. The design contract for $1,337,124 includes about $360,000 for the city's portion of the State Street design, which is water main consolidation and road resurfacing. The design process deliverables will include on State Street, design through construction documents by winter 2020, recommended infrastructure and mobility improvements on 4 other downtown streets that have yet to be named. That will include construction schedule, project scope, and budget in time for inclusion with the city's CIP, the Capital Improvement Plan, by August of 2020, and conceptual designs for each of the 4 streets. As we've discussed at several Capital Improvement Committee meetings, these projects are working within timelines of larger coordinated efforts, including the City of Ann Arbor State Street Construction Project and the Capital Improvement Plan and the University Zone Development and Capital Improvement Plans as well.
Any discussion?
I'm excited to see this go forward.
It's very exciting.
Mhm.
I think a lot of the discussion we've had at committee, that's why there's so much discussion here. Yes,
I'm
Darren.
recusing myself again.
Darren is
Thanks,
recusing
Darren.
himself. It's the
Just-
Smith Group.
What was the city's portion again? What were they focusing on?
They are contributing towards water main consolidation and road resurfacing, and right now their dollar amount is around $360,000.
And that's one of the reasons, the timing's critical, because
Yes.
they cannot move that
Mhm.
project.
Yep. Mhm.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none. Resolution, all those in favor of the resolution to approve a design team for the People-Friendly Streets Phase 2 project, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, you're 6 for 6.
All right, and we're done. The next Capital Improvements Committee meeting is on Wednesday, March 18th at 11 a.m. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Jess. Moving on to the Partnerships Committee. Tyler.
Yes, so little review of the recent Partnerships Committee meeting. We had 2 presentations. It was a very well-attended meeting, and for good reason. Both presentations were wonderful. Starting off with Jan Culbertson presenting on behalf of the 2030 District Coalition. She provided a lot of information about what they do. Specifically, they're a volunteer organization that assists building owners, stakeholders, and community organizations in reducing energy and water usage using best practices, and specifically starting with benchmarking. They offer energy audits to building owners and managers. And it was very timely. I'm sure Doug Selby has been or will be in contact with them as well. Yeah, there you go. Jennifer Hall then presented in a very robust and in-depth presentation about the feasibility analysis of city-owned properties as sites for affordable housing. We specifically had her come and encourage participation because her knowledge is encyclopedic, and that brings me to moving a resolution. If I can describe it. The Smith Group actually has done some feasibility analyses of specific sites, and they'd like to do that, to do more of that. We provided some funding to that previous work, and the request is to continue that work on more sites. That said, in the resolution, and as part of the policy enacted by City Council that we need to comply with, our use of funds that are requested is limited by the use of it towards 50% AMI and below. And this request is towards work that would go towards a 60% AMI or below. So as part of the request for this sum of $200,000, that would be going towards community engagement analysis, a downtown parking study, and a downtown housing market analysis. In addition to that, and contingent to the granting of that money, would be that the City Council change the DDA's policy to allow us to use that housing affordability funds for 60%. So basically moving the bar from 50% to 60% AMI, just so we can support this. So can I get a second to move that resolution asking for $200,000 to fund further analysis and study?
Second. Bob?
Okay. So I so move.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this?
I will say one of the things that I appreciated when I joined the DDA is that we seem to operate in a pretty high information environment. When it comes to the parking system, when it comes to the capital improvements that we do, we have a pretty tight, both quantitative and qualitative handle on what it is that we're doing and what it is that we're trying to accomplish. But when it comes to parking and housing, especially when it comes to projections, we are operating in a low information environment. So I hope we're able to move forward with this because data would help all of us make better decisions.
Yeah, can't agree more.
I have a question. Have we gotten any feedback from council? Will we look at those projections?
I don't have that information.
This is the request. This is the.
Any other discussion? Questions? Yes, Darren? Yes.
I'll be recusing myself from this vote.
Smith Group is on this one. Any others? All right. To the title of this so I can read it off. All those in favor of the resolution approving a grant to the city to support the construction of affordable housing on downtown city-owned property, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Thank you. The next partnerships.
I do want to make one comment. So as a result of that information from Jan, I'm not, pardon? The Art Center is in the process of renovating, and so we're all in on the district, the 2030 district.
Great.
And so we're going to start that benchmarking now, so I'm excited because all the areas that they're touching from an environmental standpoint, we'll be making improvements on. So as a result of that, we have joined that group, so I'm excited about that.
Excellent.
That's great. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, they're doing, just getting everyone benchmarked so that they know what their even usage is such
Right.
a good first step. Great. So the next Partnerships Committee meeting is in a week on March 11th here at 9 a.m. with the full partnership group. So come if you can.
All right, thank you, Tyler. Operations Committee, I hand it over to Phil.
Thank you. I'm going to move a resolution. I'd like to formally request that Darren McKinnon be a part of this vote.
Okay.
I'll recuse myself from that.
I'd like to move a resolution to provide a grant to fund the Go Pass and the Get Downtown program for fiscal year 2021. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. McKinnon. As you probably know, the DDA program, or the Get Downtown program, was co-created by the DDA in 1999 and remains a partnership between the DDA, the AATA, and the City of Ann Arbor. We've provided funding since the year 2001, and this is their annual funding request. Part of the DDA mission is to provide a menu of transportation options for employees commuting to downtown. The Go Pass and the Get Downtown program are an important part of that toolbox. And you have on page 40 this resolution that I just moved, which summarizes their funding request for the next fiscal year, which is $770,000, $770,600, which is a little bit of a reduction from fiscal year 20. I wanted to point out the final paragraph of the resolution that this is a not to exceed amount. the Go Pass and Get Downtown will bill the DDA on a quarterly basis, and that amount that you have before you is not to exceed, a not to exceed amount. Chris is here if there are any questions about this. Any discussion?
I'm wondering if there's any relationship or going to be any relationship between the Get Downtown program and the D2A2 program?
Thanks. So if you take a look at the resolution, the third category of non-fixed route discounts, this is a change from what you all saw in previous years, and it's a deliberate change. Where we had spelled out specific non-fixed route discounts in the past, we chose to put all of those into a bundle because all of the opportunities inside of D2A2 support and other potential options coming forward for this fall aren't entirely clear yet. The design is that we're going to do a subsidy with the D2A2 service for commuters coming into downtown Ann Arbor, but all of the mechanics on the booking end aren't done yet. So until I can confirm all of those pieces, I didn't want to prejudice anything by spelling out exactly where those non-fixed route discounts would be moving forward. That also gives us some flexibility if things don't work the way we expect to, either in D2A2 or in other non-fixed route discount areas, that we can move that funding into new pilot programs or other opportunities as they come up throughout the year. So concept here is more flexibility while getting perhaps more bang for the buck as well.
Okay. And a follow-up question, which is, this is outside of your purview, but just if you know whether Detroit Transit is going to be participating as well?
I have not heard anything with the Detroit Transit side. I have heard little birdies in my ear talking about some potential opportunities for bike share on both ends of the service, and stations will be at both ends of the service as well. So there will be some co-marketing opportunities with this.
Got it. Okay. Thanks, Chris.
I also wanted to point out that DDA funding for downtown transportation programs comes from parking revenue as our overall, as we look at parking and as part of the transportation piece for downtown.
Excellent. Any other question? Discussion? See none. All in favor of the resolution to approve fiscal year 21 funding for Go Pass and Get Downtown, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes.
There's a brief parking and transportation report on pages 41 and 42. Jada tells me it was a pretty light month, but it is summarized in your packet on those 2 pages. If there's any discussion or questions about that, Jada is here to answer them. Hearing none, the next Operations Committee meeting is Wednesday, March 25th at 11 a.m. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Phil. Just leaves one committee left, the Executive Committee. As usual, we met at 11 o'clock before this board meeting, basically to go over the agenda. Our next Executive Committee meeting will again be half an hour before the meeting next month. That's Wednesday. Oops. This is wrong here. Over on this one, Wednesday, April 1st, April Fool's Day at 11 a.m. All right, which finishes all the committee reports. Any new business? None. Other audience participation? None, which leads us to, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
That's a land speed record with as many resolutions.
Yeah.